After a night of terror in Kyiv, the search for the dead goes on. Kyiv, Ukraine, June 19, 2025. In the aftermath of a harrowing overnight assault on Kyiv, scenes of devastation and grief unfolded with the morning light. As emergency workers sifted through rubble and splintered concrete, residents were left to reckon with the personal losses and shattered remains of what had once been home. Among them was Evhen Povarenkov, standing silently at the edge of a police cordon, eyes fixed on what used to be his apartment, once a modest but stable home in a leafy suburb of the Ukrainian capital. The building now stood partly hollowed out, its windows blown out by a missile blast, the balcony hanging precariously, threatening to collapse at any moment. "It's not just the building," Povarenkov said, his voice faint over the distant hum of rescue equipment. "It's my life in there." The attack, carried out overnight by Russian drones and cruise missiles, was one of the deadliest in recent months. At least 15 people were confirmed dead by midday, and scores more injured. The assault was part of a wider barrage across Ukraine, with Kyiv taking the brunt as air defenses struggled to intercept the swarm of projectiles. In the immediate aftermath, the area around Povarenkov's building was chaotic yet somber. Personal belongings, suitcases, books, fragments of children's toys were scattered across courtyards and sidewalks. Bed sheets and towels, flung out by the blast, fluttered eerily in the trees like ghostly banners of the lives once lived here. The Ukrainian Emergency Services DSNs continued to dig through the rubble as anxious families waited for word on missing loved ones. The search was complicated by ongoing concerns about structural integrity, as several buildings were deemed at risk of further collapse. President Volodymyr Zelensky issued a statement condemning the attack, calling it a deliberate act of terror against civilians. He vowed that Ukraine would hold the perpetrators accountable and called again for increased international support in the form of air defenses and sanctions against Russia. "This was not a military target. This was a home neighborhood," Zelensky said in a video address. "Russia seeks to break our spirit, but every such act only strengthens our resolve." Throughout the morning, volunteers brought hot tea and blankets for those displaced. Local hospitals were overwhelmed with casualties, many suffering from burns, fractures, and blast trauma. Psychological aid tents were also set up, with many residents too stunned to speak. For Evhen Povarenkov, the physical loss was only part of the devastation. "Everything we had, all the memories, it's gone," he said, watching as a rescue worker pulled a photograph from a pile of bricks and soot. As Kyiv mourns, the search continues not just for the dead, but for what remains of normal life in a city that endures through each night of terror.